Greetings, Chris.
Hey, Doru, how are you?
Very good. Long time no see. Greetings to the viewers too. When they'll be watching this recording, it'll be past tense for us, but for the time being, it's present tense, and it's my privilege and joy to introduce once again to our very limited audience my ISCAST boss, the Revd Dr Chris Mulherin, who isn't the guest of the ISCAST conversation for the first time. Actually, we had a brief conversation like 3 weeks, years ago. You know?
Yeah, it's a while.
It's a while, but actually, it's my honor to work under his supervision twice weekly, and there's a lot that I have learned. There's a lot I have been doing together with Chris and the other colleagues, and I thought it would be interesting to invite him again so that we can return to our discussion about ISCAST. I'm certain that there are many viewers who have heard me mentioning ISCAST quite a number of times during these conversations, and it's not just the fact that I work for ISCAST. No one asked me to do this stuff, but I believe that ISCAST is too unique, at least in the Australian landscape, to miss the opportunity of knowing about this organization better, and why not becoming involved in its various activities. And this is why I invited Chris, so that you can learn from the horse's mouth, the CEO of ISCAST.
Thank you.
What is ISCAST and what it does. I don't quite remember what we talked about in our previous conversation. I remember there was something about you as a person, but if possible, Chris, we can focus more on ISCAST, what it is, what it does, and I believe that this will be of great benefit, for the broader community out there of seekers of truth.
Sure. Thanks, Doru. Yeah. So ISCAST is an Australian organisation. It's been around for about 40 years, and the name ISCAST, it stands for the Institute for the Study of Christianity in an Age of Science and Technology. Although that's a very long phrase and we don't use it very much these days.
I do. I love it.
Well, look, it's useful in some circles. In other circles, people have fallen asleep before you finish it. So, you know. So nowadays our tagline is Christianity and Science in Conversation. And our aim is to promote a healthy conversation between the sciences and Christianity. We are committed to mainstream science. We think that science is the way we come to understand the natural world. And we are committed to orthodox, small o, not big O like you, Doru. We're committed to orthodox, mainstream, creedal Christianity. So we have these dual commitments, and we have a third commitment. Our third commitment is to the sort of conversation that we have. We are committed to an open, safe space for dialogue, a safe theological and academic space for conversation about science, the sciences and Christianity. And in order to promote that conversation, we do all sorts of things. And of course, our listeners will probably know Doru, and will probably know that Doru is responsible for CPSAT. There, Doru has 2 copies of CPSAT, and CPSAT stands for Christian Perspectives on Science and Technology. So CPSAT has actually been around for many years, decades, but under Doru's reign, or under Doru's directorship, CPSAT is now a global journal sitting alongside 3 or 4 other global journals dedicated to Christianity and the sciences. Doru's done, if I might say this, he didn't ask me to say this, he's done an excellent job in raising the level of our journal, making our journal a blind peer review, very serious journal in the global academic space on science and Christianity. So CPSAT, Doru's work, is one end of what we do. Let me take you right to the other end of what we do, which is what I often do in schools. Somebody invites us into a school, will you please talk on science and Christianity for 7 minutes at a chapel service, or you can have the year 9s all day, what do you want to do with them? So between schools at one end, the academic journal on the other end, and in between, we run conferences. We have over 1,000 pages of resources on our website. We run online events. We publish in the Christian media outlets in Australia. We look forward to publishing in secular media outlets in Australia. We publish books. I don't have copies of the books here. We published the autobiography of Professor Graham Clark, who invented the bionic ear, and the autobiography of Tony Rinaudo, who is now becoming well known around the world for his work regenerating forests from deserts. So we do all of these things, all in the interests of a constructive conversation between science and Christian faith. But I guess I should say, my personal passion is, I think that ISCAST has a unique space in a society increasingly dominated by science and technology, but where Christian faith is fading, at least. So many people in our society seem to think that Christianity and science are at war, or science makes it obvious that Christianity is irrational, or something like that. So we have a unique sort of Christian engagement space in Australian society, and we do that however we can. Most obviously, we speak to 10,000 school students a year, or we speak to school teachers. Today, I was in a school and I spoke to 300 school teachers about AI and technology and the ways Christians might think about AI and technology, where technology is taking us. So I think that's a brief overview of what ISCAST does. And we're a small not-for-profit. We have a staff of 6 paid staff, 2 voluntary staff. All of the paid staff are part-time, between sort of half a day a week up to 3 days a week. Yeah, and can I put in a plug now? We are funded basically by individual donors. So if anybody likes what we're doing and they have a few spare pennies or dollars, we'd love to hear from them. Or just sign up for our mailing list to find out what we do. Yeah, that's for free. We won't hassle you.
Yeah, or they can apply to become associate members. Yeah, and
they can apply to become associate members, and if they have credentials in the sort of science and technology space, they can apply to become fellows of ISCAST. Yeah.
Also theologians, philosophers, and educators, because
absolutely
in the very broad pool of ISCAST fellows, actually, there are only scientists and technologists. There's a number of educators,
philosophers, theologians,
yeah, yep, ethicists, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
ISCAST is a complex family or community of like-minded people. I keep saying this in the last few days. I don't know why. Truth seekers, but I believe that this phrase is very appropriate in our day and age of misinformation, disinformation, to the extent that we have to revive the classical quest for a truth that is unadulterated by all the misinformation out there, winds of doctrine, as St. Paul would say.
Yeah.
And yeah, what Chris, what you summarized there, Chris, is actually, you know, the tip of the iceberg of a prodigious activity, which is actually conducted and executed by a handful of people, truly. And it is unbelievable how much work is out there to do, and how much work you do, and others at the
We do.
Well, look,
The team.
at the headquarters there in Melbourne, I am certain you do more stuff than I do from the comfort of my whatever chapel office where I'm located. And the thing is, the laborers, to paraphrase another gospel passage, the laborers are few. And this is one of the things that perhaps is, well, worthy of wonder. What prompts these people who don't even work full-time for this organization, what prompts them to do all the stuff they do? And one of the things I wanted to address with you, Chris, is the role of Christian convictions, because we all are Christians working for ISCAST. Is this the main motivator, the main driving force behind all this wonderful activity with so many ramifications? And what does personal faith mean in this context?
I think it's probably safe to say that nobody who works for ISCAST in terms of salaried work is doing it just for the money. And I think that people are convinced that what we do is an important space in Christian conversation with our culture. And I think that that probably stems from the faith convictions of all the staff members. Now, the staff members are a diverse group. We range from an Orthodox priest, an Anglican priest, minister, to people younger in the faith who are not Anglican or Orthodox. So we're a diverse group, but I think that it's our personal faith in Jesus Christ that is the bottom line driving force behind what we do with our lives, behind our vocations. Yeah.
This is the spearhead of ISCAST. Of course,
I think so, yeah.
We do not discard or ignore the officers, the service of the board, and the many supporters, fellows, members, and so on and so forth. But this is the team.
Yeah. And of course, you know, I mean, what I said about the staff, I also say about the board and the other volunteers involved in ISCAST. There are numerous volunteers, you know, the people who help you with the journal. It's their Christian conviction too that drives them. It's not because you're paying them or, you know, they just like abstruse sort of theological argument. It's, yeah, so I think it is.
Yeah, and this is something that amazes me about this organization, this setting, this framework, where we actually love what we do and do, as you said already, more than we are expected to and paid for. And I believe that this is the ideal situation where we are invested personally in this activity. But on the other hand, of course, it's the variety of gifts and expertise and experience that that the team has, and the many supporters, the board, fellows, and so on and so forth. I'd like us to address, Chris, if possible, a bit more in detail some of the activities. Why do you invest so much in visiting schools? And now let me disclose something about you. That's even when you receive anything from those schools you are visiting and speaking to hundreds and thousands of teachers and students, the money comes to the organization.
Yeah.
Well, why do you reckon that's an important part of ISCAST ministry?
I think it's an important part of the ministry because well, we have some raw data. We have surveyed 3,000 school students, secondary students, in I think it's five or six schools, and we asked them about what they thought about science and Christianity. We gave them 5 choices, and the choices were: I think there is a definite conflict. There is a definite conflict. I think there's a conflict. I don't know. I don't think there's a conflict, or I'm sure there isn't a conflict. We gave them those 5 choices in all schools. Consistently, 60% of students went for the first or the second one. 60% of students, and these are faith-based schools, 60% of students said either definitely or yes, I think there is a conflict between science and Christian faith. So we have a generation of young people who think that they have to choose between taking science really seriously or taking Christian faith really seriously. I think that's a tragedy. I think it's a tragedy for young people who are Christians because, you know, they leave school, maybe they go to university, they do science, and what do they do with their brain that thinks there is a conflict? Do they ditch their faith? Do they live a sort of schizoid life or what? And then for those who are not Christians, for those who might consider Christian faith, if they think they can't consider Christian faith without ditching science, a commitment to science, then again, it's a tragedy. So that's why we think that ISCAST schools work is a very sort of missional cutting edge in our society. And we have really good connections with lots of schools, and we want to build up that schools work. Unfortunately, we're at the limit because we don't have the staff to do it. We don't have a dedicated school staff person, and we're really hoping we can raise the money to put a schools staff person on so we can move up to the next level. At the moment, we see about 10,000 school students a year, but there are 1.6 million that we'd like to see. And we'd also like to work with schools in a more in-depth way rather than just arriving, dropping in and leaving. We'd like to work with schools on a sort of program that spans the secondary years so that no secondary student leaves school thinking that Christianity and science are at war. You can hear my passion.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I can hear why passion is needed, and your experience and all the resources you put in this work, because we have to begin somewhere, and usually decrees and I don't know, directions coming from ecclesiastical authorities, for example, don't do the trick. As a matter of fact, without reaching out to the grassroots, including very young grassroots, we miss tremendous opportunities, you know. And as you said, on the long run, you have these people who don't know what to do, how to grapple with discourses about conflict and warfare and all that. And growing up, these young minds will have, without a proper framework, they feel like they have to choose either of them. And we have
Yeah, that's right.
This is the beauty of ISCAST, because we have this generous pool of fellows, most of whom are scientists and technologists, but who are also devout Christians, dedicated Christians. And this is something that, for many people sounds paradoxical, strange, and an impossibility. So without letting know these young minds that this is actually possible, they'll miss opportunities in life, the opportunity of growing up as complete beings with a soul and a mind, with a heart and
absolutely,
hand. Yeah. This is why ISCAST is such an important ministry in our society, in the culture of our day and age, when it's all about taxonomies and shelving things and putting things where they belong. And then we all struggle to see if there's any connection to be made between those very shelves and whatever categories of things that we have so assiduously separated from one another. There's another direction of ISCAST's activity, and Chris, if possible, you could say a few things about it. There's an in-between, let's call it, audience. So we have on the one hand the schools ministry with very young Christians and their teachers. On the other hand, we have the journal that is read by academics from across the spectrum of disciplines. But in between, ISCAST addresses broader audiences via the conversations, little symposia, more developed conferences. Could you address this topic, please?
Yeah, so there is a big audience in that middle space between academia on the one hand and school students on the other. A big audience of people, some of whom are vocationally involved in science or in theology, maybe clergy, but many of whom are not, but who are Christians, who believe in science, and enjoy and are engaged with that space, and they want to ask those questions. They want to seek truth, as you said, in that space. So there's quite a big audience there. Some of them are interested for themselves. Others recognise that this is an important cultural conversation that ISCAST is promoting, and so they're more than just observers or attendees. They're also supporters, and they're backing ISCAST. And so we try and do all things for all people, sort of thing. For example, we have a conference coming up at the end of November, and at the conference we have two strands. We have an academic strand. So for those who are used to giving academic papers, people who live in universities and that's their vocation, they will be familiar with what we do on the Saturday. But on the Friday night, we have an open public meeting talking about AI and where technology is taking us. And then on the Sunday, we also have more activities for the general audience. So we'll have a panel, we'll have a keynote presentation. So we're pitching it for the general audience on the Sunday. And of course, the general audience will go on the Saturday as well. They will go along, but they will understand that these are specialists speaking, and perhaps they will find themselves a little bit out of their depth, or perhaps they will, they'll pick and choose between the different strands of what's on offer, and they'll go to the things that they're interested in. Yeah.
And that's the conference. I was looking for the link. Sorry, I still have.
Yeah, it's on our website under events.
Yeah, sorry. I wasn't looking in the right place. And that's one aspect. So the conference. Okay, there it is.
There it is. Yep.
Costache 2024.
Yep.
This is the beautiful banner, and there's a conference website already.
Yep. There is a conference website. There are a lot of details still to go up on the conference website, but we've started putting the details on the website. You can register for the conference already. Yeah.
And yeah, as you can see the dates there, the 29th of November to the 1st of December in Sydney.
In Sydney, that's right, yes. I think we only have 2 speakers up on the website so far.
Yeah.
But we're putting more speakers up, and yeah.
And by the way, can you say a few more things about the conference? Because this isn't the first COSAC, Conference on Science and Christianity.
No, it's not the first. It's the, is it the 14th or the 13th? I think it's the 14th. So we have run this conference every second year for the last 28 years or 30 years. It's been held in capital cities and smaller places in the middle of Tasmania one year, around Australia. We've often brought a big name speaker from overseas. So some of your listeners may know the names of, you know, John Polkinghorne, Alistair McGrath, Nancy Murphy, Dennis Alexander, Tom McLeish, various others whose names don't spring to mind at the moment. So we've had big name speakers. We're not having a big name speaker this time. We are having very competent speakers, but not people who are known the world over necessarily. For example, on the first night, we have Neil Dodgson from New Zealand, who spent most of his life at Oxford. He's a computer scientist, but he's an AI specialist. So he's been involved in the technical side of AI for decades. We also have Stephen Garner, who's been involved in digital theology for decades. So they're both very competent in their fields. We've also got a Sydney-sider, Cara Martin, who has been at the forefront of thinking about a theology of work and vocation. And Cara's going to contribute by talking about where AI fits into work, because as we know, AI is one of the possibilities of AI is that it will put people out of jobs. So Cara's going to reflect on that. And all 3 of them will be on the first night. They will each speak for maybe 20 minutes each, and then we'll have a panel discussion with the 3 of them. So that's the first night. That's a public night. You don't have to go to the whole conference to just go to the Friday night. And, you know, all the details about registration are on the website. I think the important thing, even though, you know, you look at a conference and you think about the content, it's really important. One aspect of it anyway is it's really important to just get people together. You know, the time over morning tea, over lunch, just spending time together, meeting people and discussing these things that are so fundamental to where our society is going, and for the church to be engaged with the conversation about where our society is going. And for that reason, we want to get people together. And for that reason, it's not online. So if you want to be part of it, you've got to come to Sydney.
Yeah. Thank God. From my viewpoint, anyway. But yeah, so this is a conference with tradition. It's a conference that builds on the shoulders of giants, you know, from, the early founders of ISCAST, and will bring together speakers from across the spectrum of ISCAST's generations. Yeah? I noticed a few names from the old guard, the new guard, people that are more or less involved with ISCAST activities, and that's amazing. This leads me to another aspect, cooperations. Because ISCAST isn't something like an enclave, although it's the spearhead of activity in terms of Christianity and science and technology and culture more broadly in Australia, ISCAST is a place for meeting, for encounter, that brings together people that aren't members, aren't fellows. Corporations then.
Yeah, yeah. We're absolutely committed to collaboration, to cooperation. Australia is too small a country for like-minded people to just do their own thing without collaborating, at least mutually supporting, knowing what each other's doing. So we are very keen to collaborate with anybody who is, you know, on projects that where there is a mutual interest in collaborating. The last thing we want to do is sort of create a silo or compete with other people or something like that. So we do that when we can. We have run events in collaboration with other people. This particular event, and I should have said this earlier, if I've got any new college people there listening to this, I'm sorry I haven't said it earlier, let me say it now. This event, our conference this year, is in collaboration with New College at the University of New South Wales. So it's effectively a joint event with New College, and that's where it's being held, obviously. And we're very grateful to New College because we've got a relationship with New College that goes back that goes back over a decade. I don't know if it goes back 2 decades. We've often run events at New College, so that's an example of collaboration with like-minded people.
And that's where you find like-minded people like me, because it was 2018 or something when you organized an event. I don't remember. I think it was the Tony Morgan lectures.
Lecture, that's
Yeah.
right. Yes,
and that's how I got hooked up with you, young, bright people, and so
there
welcome.
you go. And now look where you are. That's right. Yeah, that's right.
So New College and the University of New South Wales, but ISCAST has broader ramifications and builds bridges with other organizations. Like, for instance, for the last couple of years, we worked together with that series of seminars with the Sydney College of Divinity, the Theology Research Network, and we organized together a series of 11 seminars. All of which can be watched, the recordings, I mean, on ISCAST YouTube channel. And there's the cooperation with the New Zealanders.
That's right. Yep.
Years now. Is it before? Or, I think from the pandemic onwards, ISCAST has organized conversations, with a series like twice yearly, a series of conversations with the New Zealand Christians in science.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, online conversations twice a year, 8 to 10 weekly online meetings on Zoom, twice a year in collaboration with New Zealand Christians in Science. 1 hour conversations where we have a speaker for about half an hour, and then we have a discussion for about half an hour. Yep, and that's gone really well.
Yeah, and that's you know, to feel that middle ground, you know, of broader audiences, which sort of amazes me. You know, I repeat, when I came to realize how little ISCAST is in terms of organization, in terms of resources, in terms of personnel, you know, because becoming an insider now, I understood more about its workings. I'm amazed by the energy, by the enthusiasm, by the competence of the people who are involved in all these activities, which brings me to another point, Chris. Difficulties. Difficulties. I'm certain that enthusiasm, grace of God, and faith, convictions, and all that work well, and they do, thank God. But I'm certain that from the viewpoint of the center of the organization, and you are there, you can also speak to the difficulties ISCAST has encountered, at least in the last few years, and what can be done to improve the situation.
I guess one of the challenges of the last few years is we have grown from being a volunteer-based organization, not very professional, but very committed. We've done things well, but in a volunteer sort of a way, with a little bit of help from paid staff. We've moved from that about 7 years ago to now a position of having, as I said before, 6 paid staff and 2 volunteer staff. So there are 8 staff members, all working quite part-time, covering different bases. And therefore we've grown. We have a CEO, an executive director, me, who has never run a bunch of people like this before. I don't have an MBA or, a history of doing this sort of thing. And so we're growing. We're growing in our governance. We have a much strengthened board, a diverse board with really covering various bases that we didn't have before. So, we have an accountant on the board, and we have a lawyer on the board, and that sort of thing. But I think the challenge, probably the biggest challenge at the moment, and I say thank God that this is the biggest challenge, because let me preface it with this. The biggest challenge could be the staff aren't getting along, or we've got staff difficulties, or somebody's suing us, or you can think of a host of things that do go wrong with organizations. And I thank God that those things are not going wrong. Our biggest difficulty is we want to grow. We see so many things that can be done. We would like to give our staff more time, as in pay them for more time. So our biggest challenge right at the moment is working out how we can economically, how we can fundraise in a way that gives us long-term stability. We have short-term stability. We're not going to sack anyone this year, but long-term, we really want to be more economically stable. We want to reach out to the 1.6 million students, not just the 10,000 that we can do at the moment. So right at the moment, that's the big challenge. The other big challenge, which is not a sort of urgent challenge, but it is an important one, is we need to work out who's going to follow me. Right at the moment, I've been leading ISCAST for a few years now. I am aging, and it's very important. Transition is very important. It's important that we have a succession that doesn't leave the organisation sort of going into a hole before it comes out again. We want continuity. So we need to find the right person to be the next ISCAST Executive Director. Now, that's not an immediate thing. I'm very happy to stay around for a while. A while meaning not weeks or months, but a small number of years. But I would also be very happy if we found the right person. So that's the other thing that we need to address.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, well, the topic of funds and financial support for the organization is very important, and as you said, it's a matter of primary significance and urgency. And ISCAST has attempted this year to raise more funds to raise awareness about its activities, but there's still a long way to that stability, and it still requires support from people who might think that what the organization does is actually relevant to society, Christianity and culture, and so on and so forth. This would be a good opportunity if anyone who watches this recording can feel moved to do so, to inquire about how they can help, because there are many ways in which ISCAST can be helped. Direct donations, but also by connecting us with the right people and right organizations and so on and so forth.
That's right. So one of the problems, I think, is I often bump into people and I tell them about ISCAST and they say, sort of, taking a little bit of license, they say, well, where have you been all my life? They're very enthusiastic about the sort of organization we are, but we're small and we're not very well known. So just getting the word out there, there are probably people out there who have got a bit of money who could come along and say, well, this is really good. I'll give you $100,000 or $500,000 or something like that. Now that's not most of us. Most of us give our pennies, but and we're very grateful for that, for what anybody does. But there are probably wealthy people who would look at what we do and would be very impressed.
And they should, and the importance is not just the amount of work that ISCAST puts in these various activities and this ministry, but it's also the significance of this work, especially in a time as crucial as this one, where the truth is at stake.
Absolutely.
Truth of human life, of the values, of everything. We live in a society that is undermined from within, by relativism and all that, and we wonder why we have so many issues in this society of misunderstanding, of conflict, of rejection, and so on and so forth.
People are very confused. People are very confused about truth and tolerance, and people don't even recognize relativism, the absurd contradictions of relativism. They don't recognize it when they see it, when they speak it. And often anybody who speaks as if there is an objective truth is seen to be intolerant or simply just rude, which means we can't have frank conversations. I come from a sort of philosophical background where I'm perfectly happy to say, I think you're wrong, you think I'm wrong, let's talk about it. And at the end of the day, we might go on disagreeing, and we say, well, we can still shake hands and disagree. We've had an honest conversation. But even that sort of conversation, people seem to shy away from in our society. So how will we ever discover truth? We're just fearful of going in certain directions or having certain sorts of conversations.
And this is what's so important, so significant about ISCAST. It's a platform where you can voice your views. You, Chris, mentioned earlier the wild variety of people who are ISCAST, various denominational backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, it's nothing as some kind of homogeneous ideological platform there to bring us together. What brings us together is the conviction that conversation is the way, and it helps us personally as groups of people, but also people from outside our sphere when they come to know that there's another way. Not just rejection and accusation of this and that, and we can talk to one another. And this is what ISCAST stands for. On the one hand, values, on the other hand, the idea of conversation.
Conversation. Yeah. Yep. Science, Christianity in conversation.
In conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chris, and may God bless ISCAST and its ministry and all those out there who are seeking the truth and want to support ISCAST ministry for the truth.
Thank you. Now, let me just say one more thing. And, excuse me, let me reiterate, it is a joy to have Doru Costache on the ISCAST staff team. So, there you go. It's good working with you, Doru. I wish we could catch up in person more.
Yes, well, November
See you in
is
Sydney.
there.
See you in Sydney. Yeah, great. Good talking to you.
Same here.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.